Hello, and welcome back to this channel. If this is your first time here, I'm really glad you found us. This is a place where you can relax, listen, and slowly improve your English, one story at a time. You don't need to understand every single word today. Just listen, follow along, and let your mind absorb the language naturally. Every minute you spend here is helping you grow a little more each day. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's begin today's story. Today, I want to tell you about the day that changed my life, the day of my first job interview in English. My name is Daniel, and English is not my first language. 4 years ago, I moved to a new city to find work. Everything around me felt new. The streets, the food, the people. I could read English well, and I could write it too. But speaking? Speaking was hard for me. My mind knew the words, but my mouth was always slower than my thoughts. For months, I avoided situations where I had to speak English out loud. I ordered food by pointing at pictures. I answered questions with 1 or 2 words. I told myself, someday I'll be ready. But someday never came. Then, one morning, I saw a job posting online. It was for a position at a small marketing company, and it looked perfect for me. I read the description 3 times. Then I saw the words, "Interview will be conducted in English." My stomach dropped. I closed my laptop and sat there, thinking, could I really do this? My English wasn't perfect. I still made mistakes. I still needed time to find the right words. Part of me wanted to close the page and forget about it. But then I remembered something my teacher once told me back when I was still studying. She said, "You don't need to speak perfectly. You only need to speak clearly and keep trying." I thought about those words for a long time that night. Before I could change my mind, I sent my application. 2 days later, an email arrived. They wanted to meet me for an interview in 3 days. 3 days. That's all I had. I started preparing immediately. I wrote down common interview questions. I practiced my answers out loud, again and again, in front of the mirror. My roommate, who spoke English fluently, offered to help me. Every evening, we sat in the kitchen and she asked me questions, just like a real interviewer would. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? On the first night, my answers were slow and full of pauses. I forgot simple words. I mixed up my sentences. I felt embarrassed and wanted to stop. But my roommate was patient. She corrected me gently, and we tried again. On the second night, it was a little easier. I remembered more words. I made fewer mistakes. On the third night, something changed. My answers became smoother. I still made mistakes, but I wasn't afraid of them anymore. I understood, for the first time, that mistakes were part of learning, not a sign of failure. The morning of the interview finally arrived. I put on my best shirt and looked in the mirror. My hands were shaking a little. I whispered to myself, "You only need to speak clearly. You can do this." I left early to catch the bus, but traffic was heavy that morning, and I watched the minutes pass by nervously. I arrived at the office with only 2 minutes to spare, out of breath, but on time. A woman greeted me at the front desk. She smiled and led me to a small meeting room. A man was already sitting at the table. He introduced himself as Mr. Carter, the manager. He smiled warmly and said, "Please, sit down. Don't be nervous." I sat down and the interview began. "Tell me about yourself," he asked. I took a breath and I spoke. My voice was a little shaky at first, but I remembered my practice. I talked about my background, my skills, and why I loved marketing. Mr. Carter listened carefully and nodded as I spoke. Then he asked, "What is your biggest weakness?" I paused for a moment. I almost said, "My English," but I stopped myself. Instead, I said, "Sometimes I take too much time to make a decision because I want to be sure it's the right one. But I'm learning to trust myself more quickly." Mr. Carter smiled and wrote something down. We continued talking for almost 30 minutes. There were moments when I paused, searching for the right word. At one point, I even said a sentence backward and quickly corrected myself with a small laugh. Mr. Carter laughed too and said, "Don't worry, we all do that sometimes." That moment helped me relax completely. Near the end, Mr. Carter said something I will never forget. He said, "Your English is good, but more importantly, you communicate with confidence. That matters more than perfect grammar." I left the office feeling proud of myself, not because I spoke perfectly, but because I didn't give up, even when it felt difficult. 3 days later, I received an email. The subject line said, "Job offer." I got the job. I sat there, staring at the screen, and I felt tears in my eyes. All those nights of practice, all those nervous moments in front of the mirror, they were finally worth it. Looking back now, I understand something important. Learning a language isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try, again and again, even when it feels difficult, even when your mouth is slower than your thoughts. If you are learning English right now, listening to this story, I want you to remember something. Every word you learn, every sentence you practice, every mistake you make, it's all part of your journey. You are already doing something brave simply by showing up and trying, just like you're doing right now. You don't need to speak perfectly. You only need to speak clearly and keep going. Before we finish today, let's remember a few useful words from this story. Nervous. This means feeling worried or afraid before something important. Prepare. This means getting ready for something. Confidence. This means believing in yourself. Embarrassed. This means feeling shy or uncomfortable after a mistake. Give up. This means to stop trying. Try making a sentence with one of these words and write it in the comments below. I'd love to read what you write. I hope Daniel's story reminded you of something important today, that every step you take toward learning English is progress, even when it feels slow. As someone once said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Your journey is already moving forward simply because you're here, listening and learning. If this story helped you today, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. And if you know a friend who is also learning English, share this video with them. You might be exactly the encouragement they need today. Thank you for spending this time with me. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and I'll see you in the next story.